off. The police also too came out to deny that kidnapping happened until many days after, when they released the list of the people kidnapped. So until today, as a country that lacks honor, that local government chairman has not been called for questioning. Even high up to the federal government, nobody has called the local government chairman to question him for complicity. If we were a country of honor, the local government chairman should have left his voluntarily resigned today, and he should be with the DSS answering questions on what he knows about the banditry in the first place. Because that's aiding and abetting one way or the other. When you're telling villagers not to make noise because you people want to play politics, it's close to election time. So when you look at it, the story now is not even about the 178 people kidnapped or 177 people kidnapped. It's about the role the local government chairman played and how people try to cover what happened. And when you ask them, why are you doing all of this, they will tell you it's politics. You shouldn't say this so that you won't look wrong. But you see, a lot of these people that do all these things, because you see, this our Sunday morning show is geared to national development, and it's also gospel. A lot of people that do all this, and they forget that you're going to leave power someday. See, I have seen senators leave power, and they died because of the poor state of the hospital they refused to build. I've seen senators leave power, and they are begging for $20,000 for medical surgery. If only they have passed a law to strengthen the national health insurance that everybody can get insurance. So, they think they are doing themselves. They think their money will insulate them. I mean, but COVID taught us a lot now. So, and in a society where you have people that are supposed to try as much as possible to ensure that society gets a lot better and all of that, and they don't do it, like the police, for instance, that in this case, it was the police that was even now denying. Police first wrote a statement also to deny what transpired, but in the end, the police now accepted, okay, this was what transpired. So, is that one a society that has honor? You know, I'm saying all of this because, see, I keep saying that if Nigeria worked, if everybody, and see, you don't need religion for a country to work. You just need people to believe in a common ethos of respect for humanity, let there be law and order, and there should be systems and procedures in place. You don't need religion. It's not about pray. And as I say, with all the prayers we pray, better, because prayers are good, but it's about the systems that make people do what is right. Simple as ABC. If those systems are not there, prayers will just be like an exercise. And that's what we are doing. Take, for instance, if there are no systems in charge, that we question the local government chairman that told them not to say anything after their people were kidnapped, and that we hold them accountable, then there's no matter of prayer you can pray that will end banditry. Because when you see that, that's a level of complicity as far as I'm concerned. And it's not prayer that will end banditry. It is everybody deciding to end it and ending insecurity and stating what ought to be stated, that things are not working, and infiltrating the bad people. That's why we end insecurity. Like we pray from because so many years. But this thing is not ending. So it's not prayer. It's not that I don't like prayer, I pray. But if Nigeria worked better, your prayer points will be limited. Have you ever seen somebody abroad that says, pray, oh God, let them bring lights? No, he knows that the light system works. In America, now, they are going to have a storm this weekend. After the storm, light will go. But after the storm, they know light will come. They pay for the light and they get it. Here, you pay for Band-Aid, you don't get Band-Aid. So is it prayer that will fix that one? It's not prayer. All of our problems, it's not a problem of prayer. God, change the heart of our leaders. God, change the heart of our... What your prayer is that? Your leadership recruitment process is bad. You vote in criminals and you make excuses for them. If you vote in criminals, you have a criminal country. So when your leaders are behaving in a criminal nature, why are you crying? Why are you calling on God? In fact, most of our prayer points disturb God too much. You know me, I will speak reality to you. Most of our points disturb God. Prayer points disturb God too much. Yeah, God, I want to jackpot. God, let them give me visa. Let Oyibo man favor me so that they will give me visa. It's because your country is in dire straits. Your country that is a rich with natural resources, top oil producer. Your for your governments have a leadership process that hold leaders accountable, that ensure that they fix the road, they fix the water. You will not need to pray to go to another one's country. Maybe you're proud of it. You will succeed and but because the process has failed. And most of us, we are content with the process because we benefit. Most of us are content with the way Nigeria is today. Because if you are not content, then you will speak up. Then you will vote in times of election. Then you will strive for accountability. But you are content because the next thing you start bringing in the ethnic politics. It's my tribesman. It's my tribesman. It's my the same people that want Nigeria to be better. They see quality people, but when it's the election time, they remember somebody is their tribesman. So they are better off voting their tribesman that has a criminal past that they know will not do anything, that doesn't care, give a hoot about them, than what's it called. Then when he doesn't now do well, they will not make an excuse for him again. That if somebody doesn't do well, maybe he used to repeat class. Let him repeat class. So it's a bunch of repeaters we have as political class. All this I'm saying, in 2027, a lot of them will still do it again. This is still going to be the sentiment. All I'm just saying is to eyes. If I open your eyes and you decide to open and your mind change, then life will get better. So what I'm able to tell you today is, and it's funny that I'm saying this on the Sunday morning show, it's not prayer that will stop banditry. It's leadership that will stop banditry. It's not prayer that will stop insecurity. It's leadership that will stop insecurity. In fact, there's a motto I hear that says, walk and pray. It is after you walk, then you pray. You need an element of God. So all the times that you see that some people in the military or government, they are holding prayers. Hey, God, stop insecurity, help us fight banditry and everything. But you know the bandits now. When you're having peace deal with them, you didn't remember prayer then. It's when you have peace deal. I mean, you have a peace deal with a bandit. You don't know that a bandit will not honor a peace deal. Why is he a bandit? He's a criminal now. Does he have honor? Is it a man that has honor that goes to kill another human being and loot their resources? Is it a man that has honor that goes to collect ransom from already poor people? Is he a man that has honor? So, and you think he will honor an agreement? You think he will have a change of mind? He's having a change of mind. He's still keeping his gun. He's having a change of mind. All the peace deals, all these funny governors have with bandits. You go there, you have a peace deal. The bandit said he has a change of heart. He has a change of heart so much, he can't say, okay, I have a change of heart. I want to stop this. Let me face the full wrath of the law and submit myself to prison. Let me suffer for what I've done. He will never say that. He will go scot-free. In fact, he will be a political gladiator. And the next thing, we go to church and we go to mosque and we say, oh God, help us. Stop praying that prayer. That's useless prayer as far as I'm concerned. If you fix your country, you will pray less. You don't pray, God, turn around China. God, increase the GDP. It's not by prayer that increase the GDP of China. No. It's work. I'm not saying don't pray. You have to pray. But you also have to work. The fact is that we just pray, we don't do work. Did you hear Mao Zedong come out or Deng Xiaoping come out to say that, oh God, increase the GDP of China? No, they work towards it. They produce. So, and that's why when the GOs come out and they say, let's pray for that. We've been praying for Nigeria for so many years. Things are not changing because we are not putting action in place. The main thing that your GOs are supposed to be telling you in church, they are not telling you. They are not holding the leaders accountable. So if they are putting action in place, life will be a whole lot better. They say, let's pray for Nigeria. And they will go and sit down. Oh God, change Nigeria. God will not change Nigeria. It is people that make a country happen. God will not, oh God, increase the GDP of that. It is innovation and technology and production that makes a GDP increase. Look at Denmark. Novo Nordisk, there's a pharmaceutical company that produces Ozempic. The innovation of that drug and the acceptability of that drug, it has added to the GDP of Denmark. So much so that most of the foreign exchange that Denmark gets, they can use to stabilize their currency. Just one drug, one product. How many pharmaceuticals that we've produced that we've sold to the world that is been? Even the Afro beats that we sell to the world, are we not still abusing our legends? And what was the stupidity? People were comparing whiskey and Fela and abusing both of them. These two people have done Nigeria very proud. We should be celebrating them, not be comparing them with each other. And stop the nonsense. These two people have put Nigeria on the map in different eras. But we are so busy. Sometimes when I look at our mentality in tapas. So the people say sometimes they decide the kind of leaders we get. Oh, yes. Because people that can talk about tribalism, ethnic bigotry, and all of that, don't they deserve the leaders they get? That's why I see the best I will do for you is to create more platforms of opening your eyes. And in this year, leading up to the elections next year, I will create more platforms where I will have candid talk like this with you, and I will be opening your eye. Like you learn, like you don't learn, that's your cup of tea. That's just it. All I will do is I will create more platforms. That's why we are doing TikTok. We are live on the radio. We are live on Facebook. We are live on. As the year goes on, probably we also put on YouTube too, so that we can have a multiplex of platforms, so that we can even change the mentality. Yeah. This one is better than this. Yeah. This one is better than that. You are busy doing FC. You better go and think of how to develop your life. Time is passing you by. Think of what you will give to the world as a legacy. So these are just the sincere truths we are telling you people. We are going to be taking phone calls. You know the numbers to call. I'll just give you the numbers again so that you can reach us up. So it's just about a society that lacks honor. And we'll tell you the truth. Hello, how are you?
Fine, sir. Good morning, sir.
Bless you. How are you? How's everything?
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Happy Sunday, sir.
Happy Sunday. Go ahead. Talk to me.
Yes, sir. Sir, my name is Peter.
Yeah, Peter.
Yes, sir. Where you live for that dumping area, for that bowler.
Okay, Peter, go ahead. What do you want to say?
Yes, sir. Sir, since that time where I call you, you said question we attend to me. So, one brother called me.
Yeah.
He said we are like to relocate to Asaba. I say yes.
Yeah.
So, but since that time, I know maybe they are working on it, but I never.
Peter, the most important thing is the best we can do for you here. You know me, I don't know how to lie. Is to give you a platform to air your problems. Once you air your problems, anybody that's interested to help you, they will call you. And if they don't call you, it's not by force. Maybe God said you're not going to get your breakthrough here. It doesn't mean you'll not still get it. Yeah? So just hope on your God. That's the best we can do for you. That's the best we can do for you. 0907 651 1008. 0907 651 1008. 0907 651 1008. So that's the best I will do. Provide platforms for you to think, for you to ruminate. If you don't, that's your problem. Hello, how are you?
Good morning, Rufai on fire.
Morning, Manjem. How are you, my brother?
Bless you, sir.
Bless you so much.
I love to say this, but you speak to the conscience of our leaders.
It's true now.
Yeah. Because what you eventually find this morning, what was said on in Catalan is barbaric.
Yeah.
That we can have the leadership in this country that they need to deny all because of political, gains of political power. So it's really, I can't even imagine the commissioner of police that would deny something like that happen, or because you don't want the world to know. Is there anything on eating under the sun? No matter, we cannot hide the truth. The truth in all these people.
Yeah.
So, but thank God today, what they don't want the world to know, the whole world is aware.
Mm-hmm.
They have known. So, to see the recklessness of our leadership in this country, you see that even all over the world, they call Nigeria that is a dead trap for Christians to survive in the northern parts of Nigeria.
Mm.
And you see that government are not even trying every possible way to put an end. Why is that this in South Kaduna, Southern Kaduna? There was a time I passed through that Slango Kapam. And when you look at all those places, people are, so many people are not even, they can't speak with their eyes closed in Southern Kaduna. Now, how do you expect people to come and invest in that kind of, state?
Yes, no.
So when you cannot provide adequate security for people, there is no development, there is no growth. Yes, every part of the world has their own challenges, but how will the government of this country, what are they doing to put an end to all those things? And not that we don't have the resources to do that, but because of their selfish interest. But I pray God will give our leaders the heart to live a life with a good conscience.
And I think those prayers are largely misplaced. I don't like saying I pray. We've been praying for. I think Kumoye was fondly reported to have said pray for Nigeria in the 1985 or 86. 85 to 86 is 40 years. We've been praying. It's just because we've not gotten a good leadership recruitment process. Once you get it in place, you don't need to pray now. You don't need to. You don't need to pray. You don't need to pray. And people get the consequence of what they do. You don't need to pray. Those that lead Nigeria, in some parts of the world, they will never even get to the point of leading local governments or councils. You don't need to pray. And even if they lead local government, there will be more level of accountability. But when you have the institutions that are in dire straits, all sorts of things are happening, then what are you saying? So we've just been deceiving ourselves. See, let me tell you something. If we do not change leadership recruitment process, and the people do not wake up, 40 years after, we'll talk about the problems we were talking about 40 years ago. Today, 40 years after, we're talking about the problems we were talking about 82, 83. In fact, it looks at those things was even better then compared to now. So now it has totally, I was telling somebody the other day, minimum wage in 1981 when it was negotiated was 125 naira. 125 naira was about $200. Today, minimum wage is less than $60. So you have eroded the purchasing power of people. In Nigeria, see, all of this, there was a school, I think it was Government College, Kankara or something. Do you know in the 70s and 80s, Indian teachers used to come and teach them because of the high exchange rate of Nigerian money?
That's true.
Indian teachers used to come and teach. Did you know the reason why a lot of Ghanaians poured in and we had Ghana must go was because of the high exchange rate of our money? Indian, Pakistani teachers, they used to come and teach and hustle in Nigeria and as teachers because they know what when they took the naira back home, it fetched them a lot. Today, do you still have that? So we've been deceiving ourselves since that time. And we are saying we are praying. Kumu, you have said pray for Nigeria. It's not going to solve anything. It's like we tell ourselves the truth. It's the truth that solves problem. So is the leadership, then the followership also have their own tribal bigotry and anyway, the followership, that one is, you can still manage that one because they are ready, because suffer is beating them, but maybe the suffer never, I don't know, because if the suffer is enough, people like some people are saying food is too cheap in the country where people can hardly eat, and everybody is just, so if the suffer is enough, I think they should show it in the terms of elections. But it's a very funny thing. So it's a gospel song, but Nigerian matter. You can pray, yes, but this is the time for practicality. And that's one thing we've not done over the years. Okay, where's the accountability? Look at people that have been deemed corrupt and everything. They serve some jail time, they do plea bargain, they part with the money, they give them pardon. Didn't Alamisi get a pardon by Jonathan? So what are we saying? So as long as you know the president or you do for people to, you still get stuff. Who gave them GCON in this same country? So what are we talking about? It's not so we're not just ready to do the hard work. And the reason why we're not ready to do the hard work, because we still benefit from it one another. Largely, a lot of people are benefiting from the fact that the system is the way it is. That's just it. So, my brother, how is our outreach? Have you gone to give them the drugs from Oseni Center?
the grace of God will be going there next week.
Next week, okay. Okay, at the IDP camps.
Yes, at the IDP camp. To the glory of God, a friend of ours gave some women and children.
Very good.
To support the outreach so that we can give it to them.
Very good.
So that's it. So thank you very much, my
Very good. Very good. It is well. It is well.
Thank you.
Happy birthday in advance. We wish you blessings and the blessing of God. It is well.
Thank you, sir.
Bless you. Bless you. Bless you. 0907-651-1008. A country that lacks honor, lacks valor. The reason why, if we say this now, they say they are demarketing Nigeria. Then the reason why a lot of people, it looks as though almost everything is demarketed, is because we've lacked honor. This is not the reputation Nigeria is to have. I'm not saying things were El Dorado back in the days. See, I'm not delusional. Don't get me. I'm not saying I want a perfect country where you're not going. But at least if we can have a country where we have minimal level of stupidity and madness across the leadership cadre, to go a large extent. I'm not saying in developed countries they don't have their own shenanigans. I mean, America, look at what Trump is doing to them. They have their own shenanigans. But I'm saying let's have a minimal level. At least let's trust the courts. Let it not be a case when people say go to courts, you are looking and saying, okay, that's just it. That's like the arguments you are making. I'm not saying I want a El Dorado nation. I'll be delusional now. And I'm not saying all the problems will be solved overnight. No. No matter how great you are as a nation, you still always have a problem. That's why I call it a nation. That's why a nation is a going concern. So, and hope you know that if we do not talk about this electoral bill properly, and we don't sign it, 2023 and 2027 might just be the same. So let's also talk about how. Hello, how are you?
I'm all right. Good morning, sir.
Bless you. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Sunday Uzo Unwanze Ikanomoso.
Where are you calling from?
Very much. I'm calling from Elasa, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
Oseni,
Hmm?
I love you very well. You know why?
Bless you.
This is a program in the morning, mostly just today, because we concentrate on prayer. I used to tell people that we give Lord God, our Creator, more load by the way prayer points we raise in Nigeria.
Yes, now.
We are giving our Creator more load. The prayer points we raise here in Nigeria, developed countries are not doing that.
Yes, sir.
But some people didn't understand me. I used to fight with people. So I'm telling them, but this is your program this morning. I love it very well. But
Yes.
I want to advise you, sir. Just simple advice, please. If you can accommodate me and tolerate me, please. Your morning program, Monday to Friday, that newspaper analysis in the morning. Most of the times you always attack Trump. And Trump do this bad.
Yes, I will attack him more.
Please.
No, I will attack him more. I have facts, you don't. I have facts, you don't. I will attack him more.
Please, sir.
No. If you don't, because of Trump, please dislike me. I please, no. There's no way you can advise me about a tyrant. Do you know what the tyrant called Trump has done? Do you know what it means to say you want to go and invade Greenland? I mean, what are you people harboring? Is it that you people don't have facts, you don't have knowledge? Okay, my brother, just you see, you don't have, because if I started an argument with you, I talk from a point of fact. So if you want to hate me because of Trump, please hate me today. I don't care.
But what I'm trying to say is that if Nigeria can get to a level of America, the problem is solved. But it's not there.
No, Nigeria, no. Listen now, you see, that's another thing. Nigeria cannot get to the level of America. America got their independence in 1778. Nigeria got their independence. Wait. Nigeria got. Wait, now I'm giving you facts. No, I'm not doing emotion. Nigeria got its independence in 1960. America is an older democracy. Secondly, America has more access to natural resources. America has over 9 million square kilometers of land. Nigeria is 923,000 square kilometers of land. Thirdly, America is over 30 trillion GDP. Nigeria is less than how many trillion? Is it 250-something billion GDP? So we can't get to the position of America overnight. Even if we grow at 20-30%, it will still take us years. So let's not delude ourselves. Number one, what you can ask for realistically, if you want me to talk, is how can we hold our leaders accountable with the little resource that we have and expand as an economy? That's just it. Pure and simple. Yeah.
Look at our election 2023.
Yeah.
So many people are now, I will tell the world who really won the election. I will do this. But that is medicine after death.
Mm.
The person that do that info in the name of Mahmoud is given ambassador.
No, that's very sad. I mean, I'm sure you are hearing me talking about it now. Don't I talk about it? I talk about it. Yeah.
My point this morning is concentrate on how to make Nigeria work.
No. So I'm sorry. Would you respect? Would you respect? You can't censor me. You can't tell me what to do.
Okay.
I'm a full-grown man. You can't tell me what to do. I've been doing this job. Listen. I've been doing this job for over 20 years. You can't tell me. You can't editorialize me because you like Trump. It is for me to comment about Nigeria issues, which I comment about, but also on global issues. I will comment about it because it affects us one way or the other. So you can't editorialize me. I mean, what are you? You are telling me what to do and concentrate on Nigeria. Am I a fool? Am I an idiot? That's what you are telling me. So don't talk about world affairs because world affairs does not affect you. It affects me. It affects all of us.
Okay.
So please, my brother, if you love Trump blindly and you don't see all the evil he's doing, that's your prerogative. But you cannot stop me from commenting on it. And if it's because of that you don't like me, hate me gladly. I mean, I don't bloody care. You know me. I'm a straight shooter.
Good. But on my own side,
yes,
for the fact that Nigeria cannot work because all you journalists cannot go to the background and foundation of Nigeria. The content of 1914 says after 100 years, if you cannot continue, you can go your separate way. But none of you journalists are talking over there.
What do you mean none of you journalists are talking what?
I have been hammering this on this radio.
No, what's the do you have the charter of 1914?
Yes.
Where is it?
Yes, because look at put it in documentation. That after 100 years, that is why Jonathan paid 100 naira in 2014.
You see, with due respect, don't tell a lot of half truths.
Okay.
Don't tell. You see, I'm sorry to say this, but there's a lot of misinformation here and there, and let's be careful because listen. Nobody's saying you're a fool, but please don't also listen. Would you listen to me? Don't also peddle misinformation. It is appropriate you do not peddle misinformation. All right? For the fact that you are peddling misinformation, journalists don't talk about what has transpired in this country. We talk about it. We even talk about serious issues around the civil war. It's not a big deal. Listen, would you listen to me?
Yes, I'm with you.
All right. So we talk about serious issues. All right? Let me tell you this. It is people that decide as a country if they want to stay together or not. You have your agenda. It doesn't mean everybody will believe in your agenda. Just like I don't believe with you with your love for Trump. That's your mindset. And the truth is, this. See, I mean, it's an optional case. It's an open case. And that's just it. So if people go on a referendum, some might decide to leave, some might decide not to leave. But you don't know what will come out of it. So you don't actually. No. Now you are spewing. No. Hang on a minute. If you let me speak. Now you are spewing propaganda. Listen. No, if your country go on a referendum, you don't know what will be the outcome. So you cannot say.
No matter what.
You cannot say. You cannot say.
Belong to Nigeria. Those who don't want to go to their separate ways.
So if you don't want to be in Nigeria, why are you living in Nigeria, by the way? No, I'm asking you a question.
Remember when Russia in USSR? When Russia in USSR?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you understand?
No, who went? When Russia and USSR?
Many countries come out of Yugoslavia. So, brother.
No, so you see the problem. The problem with you is that you are spewing a lot of half truths. You don't even. Okay, how did the USSR break apart? Tell me the story. Tell me the history. How did USSR break apart? No, you don't have the knowledge. You don't know what happened. So you're speaking a lot of half-truths. You don't have facts. Okay, no, tell me how the USSR... Can you listen to me? Tell me how USSR broke apart. If you can't tell me, I'll cut off the line. Tell me how USSR broke apart. I'll just cut it. I mean, these are people that come and spew falsehoods. Tell me how USSR broke apart. They just use one line, one zingers, one buzzword here and there. See, these are the problems. Tell me how USSR broke apart. He can't say. He can't say. And you see, for those that have these mindsets, I must have to be very, very exact and honest with you. You are taking it absolutely the very wrong way. The delusion you have is that you think if this country breaks apart, you think the hegemony that we are complaining about will not be for you. Keep fooling yourself. Keep fooling yourself. Like I've always advocated, the best part is to be able to make an argument for accountability across boards, not spewing lies and hates and subservient narrative. It is absolutely wrong. Anyway, we get a lot of people like this, but the truth is, I like to engage them from time to time to let them see their folly. Just like I engage people that are overtly blind to the workings of Trump. I mean, you see what is happening in America. America is being killed on the streets. All right? America being killed on the streets. You think Obama didn't deport people? But is it by going to harass people on the street and killing people on the street like Trump is doing it? So when people have delusion, let them continue. Hello?
Hello, good morning, sir.
Morning, great to have you.
Good morning, sir. Happy Sunday, sir. Sir.
Bless you.
Please, I am the lady that called last week, Sunday. The lady that called.
Yes. I remember your case from Benue or Kogi.
Benue.
Yeah, you said you have a shop around Regun Ikeja.
Yes.
Did anybody reach out to you?
Yes, one man reached out to me. I think I have about like 4 people that reached out to me, but one person reached out to me. He said, he asked me a question and I answered him, and he said he will send me 200K. He said he will send me half. Then after like 2 weeks, he will now send me another half. And truly, he sent me half. So he said after 2 weeks that he will send me another half. So other people were calling me. I should call them back. They will flash me. I should call them back. I should bring my children to I should give my children to them. I should bring my children to them. They will give it to their masses. I cannot take care of them. This one, that one. So it was only that guy that said he will send me 200,000.
And he has sent you 100,000.
Yeah. So he said in the next 2 weeks that he will send me half of the money.
Okay. At least your matter is half solved. We return all the glory to God.
Yes, sir.
It's not about me. It's about God. So.
Yes, sir. I called to say thank you so much.
No. It's not about me. It's about God. Give all the glory to God.
Yes, sir.
It is well. Bless you.
Hello,
Yes.
I'm sorry, sir. I just, like I said, I know you used to support people for their businesses since. I know. So I'm just asking. I know you used to collect people's number to people that want to even start from afresh. You used to support them. They will start doing something for themselves as well. I am grateful for this one that you did for me. But sir, please, I still need help.
No, but the best I can do for you, I've done for you. I've given you a platform. Somebody has given you 100,000.
Yes.
He said he will give you in a couple of another 100,000, so you get 200,000. That's about it now. What else do you want again now? You're not even lucky somebody reached out. There are people don't reach out to and give anything now.
Some other people were now asking me my address. I should bring my children to them.
You have to be careful. Once you put your number on there, so you have to be careful. But madam, the best I'm going to do, I've done for you now. Don't sound like an ingrate. You called the radio station crying last week. Out of this very hard Nigeria, you got 100,000. Someone said they will still give you another one again. And the next thing you're still calling me back to do more for you. I mean, how do you Nigerians even behave in the first place? What kind of behavior is this now?
I'm very sorry, sir.
What kind of behavior is this now? You've got somebody reached out to you. You got 100,000 just like that.
Yes.
And then the next thing you say, oh, I support business. The support of business I do is to give you platform. And I've given you a platform. And you got results from the platform. And then you come back and call and say you still want more. Haba. Haba Ghana. There are some people that with the 100,000 that they have, they know how to think and to double it. So you'll be the one to make your decisions now.
Thank you so much, sir.
Madam, see, these kind of things, you know what you have just done? People that genuinely need help and they think, you have made it hard for them. Because I'm sure if the person that even gave you 100K, that you don't know how he worked hard to get that money, is listening, he will feel very upset with you. Because he gave you 100K. He said he was still going to give you more. Then you are calling back to say it's not enough. You will have just said thank you and you go. What you are doing is greed. What are you expecting? To give you 5 million? Madam, now. Cool down for Jesus now.
I'm grateful, sir. Thank you so much.
Cool
Sir.
down for Jesus now.
I'm grateful. Thank you so much, sir. All right.
Now, wow. You see how people behave? You see? That's why sometimes it's just that me. I have. Ayobami Salami, thank you so much. You've been a gift. Is what you try on TikTok. You see, it's just that me. I have decided, come what may, to help and raise people. But do you see why people don't want to reach out to some people? Do you see the mindsets? You called crying on the air. You got help. There are people that cry on the air. They don't even get anything. You now called back to say, I'm grateful, but I want more. So it's, what's it called, that'll solve all your problems? It's somebody that reached out. Do you even know what the person went through for him to even be able to get the resource and give to you? Do you know? Do you know? What is it? Somebody says, not a sin to ask for more. Take it easy when you are reprimanding people. Haba. No, it's a sin to ask for more. Because it's lack of contentment. Because nobody owes you anything in this life. You see, it's part of the entitlement mentality people have in this country. And that's what's destroying this country. Nobody owes you anything. Nobody. That's the way I live my life. Nobody owes you. If anybody reaches out to bless you or to give you something, it's out of the abundance of their hearts. Nobody owes you anything. So that comment is as far as I'm concerned, off the point, off the mark. Nobody owes you anything. When people do charity for you, they do it out of the abundance of their heart. So if somebody gives you, take it like that and say, oh, I'm grateful. And move on. Because God can still do the rest. It's not you're now soliciting again. It's not enough. It's not enough. So we should roll up the stop and raise 10 million naira for you, because it's only you that is in the world, where there are 1,001 people there. You see, that's part of what destroys this country, entitlement mentality. And that's why somebody will do 4 years in a political position. After he has eaten, stolen enough, he will still come and say, you must give me. It's my right to have a second term. That the work we have started doing in the first time, we couldn't finish it. You see, these are part of the problems. These are part of the problems in this country. So when we talk about the political class, it's always switching people. Yeah. What about you as an individual? It's never enough. And when it's never enough for people, Watch them. We'll take our last call, 0907 651 1008. 0907 651 1008. 0907 651 1008. And please, going forward, I would like to beg, once you get help for this program, in fact, in the first place, I'm not supposed to take help, people that need help. It's just because I am built that way to reach out. Once you get help on this program, let it be that way. There are thousands of other people too that need help. Let it go around. Hello.
Hello.
Great to have you. Morning, yeah.
How are you, Mr. God bless you for the good work we are doing for this country. I've been listening to you on Facebook and many other platforms.
Bless you.
You know, there is something going on. Now, the politicians, in the ruling class, they are going to the market to carry people to, those people to forcefully to register. I don't know how that. Have you heard about that? Is it normal in democracy?
No.
One certain political.
No, they can mobilize people, but the thing is, and please, what we should tell the people is don't give them your PVC. Because I also hear they are mobilizing people and collecting their PVC. That's where there's a problem.
Please,
no, they can mobilize people.
Especially our Yoruba people. Some
Yeah.
of them are not enlightened.
No, they can mobilize people. Ẹjọ́, mo tún fẹ́ sọ fún yín fún àwọn Yorùbá. Tó bá ní pé kẹ́ lọ register, bẹ́ẹ̀ má fún wọn ní PVC yín o. I just have to say that in Yoruba so that message. But they can mobilize people. I mean, they can mobilize people and get people out. But the part we should talk about, they should not collect their PVC. Please,
All right.
Thanks, yeah. Thank you. Bless you. We'll still take the calls. 0907 651 1008. 0907 651 1008. We're getting a lot of calls. Hello, how are you?
Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What's your name? Where are you calling from, sir?
This is Chuka. I'm calling from New Jersey, the U.S.
Okay, go ahead, Chuka. Talk to us, sir.
Please, thank you very much for all you do. I have been trying to contact you for a rather different problem. Preferably, I don't know how to do it, but if it's something I'd love to talk to you personally about. But just 3 minutes. I've been trying to contact you for over a year, sir. Today is my lucky break.
Send me a mail, Chuka. Rufai Oseni at gmail.com. I mean, it's not hard to know. Rufai Oseni at gmail.com.
Okay.
All one word at gmail.com.
I did that before, but I'll do it. I did that
Please
before.
do it again. I get a lot of mails. I get tons of mails, but do it again.
I totally understand. I see you working, sir. You're a very busy man, definitely. I totally understand. I just wanted to reach out to you. But I'll keep on.
Bless you. Bless you. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. So, okay. We're still getting a lot of calls. Hello. Morning. Man, can you speak up for me, please?
Emmanuel for mainland.
Great to have you. Go ahead.
This is my first time calling.
Good.
So, I heard about the platform today, and I also need help. That's why I'm calling.
What can you do?
And I'm into printing, graphic design, printing. Next month is my freedom. I want to put freedom next month, and I don't have any funds.
Next month is your freedom. Oh, that went away. Next month is your freedom. Okay. It's again a lot of calls. Hello, how are you?
Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
This is Martin calling from Barega.
Martin, it's great to have you.
I just want to thank you for the good work you are doing.
Thank you.
I love your program, sir.
Thank you. Bless you, Martin.
Thank you, sir.
Bless you, Martin. Thanks. All right. So we'll take as many calls as we can. And we'll take as many calls as we can. Like I say, the best I can do is to give you a platform. Air your views. When I see that there are thought processes that are not right on, I will challenge them. And the best I'll be able to do for those that need help is to give you a platform. But please, I beg you, when you get help, say thank you. But when you say thank you, there's no point coming to ask for more. I beg you. I beg you. When you say thank you very much. I thank God that somebody reached out to me. You keep it moving. Please. It's an indictment on people that give. And when you now say, oh, thank you, but I want more. No. You see, the way life and giving works is it's not one person that will give you all. But it's your heart of gratitude that God sees. So if I was that lady, hello, morning, yeah. Who picked up the phone? Who called? Who spoke? No, there was a different voice. There was a different voice that spoke. I want to know who spoke at first. Okay. So, what she will have done is, I'd like to thank you, I got help. That's it. Even out of the abundance of people's heart, they might even want to reach out more and do more. But not, oh, thank you. But I know you help a lot of people for business. I want more. No, now. And you know why that matter hurt me personally? Because I remember the only thing she called asking for last week, if you remember, please correct me if I'm wrong, I might be wrong, was that she wanted to pay rent because our landlord was already on her neck. And if my memory serves me, the rent was supposed to be 100,000 naira. Because I remember she said, oh, before the landlord used to give her a longer time to pay, but now I think the children are asking for the money. I remember. And you got that breakthrough. Hello. Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good morning, Mr. President.
Great to have you. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, my name is Bakari Adip from Ikorodu.
From Ikorodu? Okay, go ahead.
Yes. It's like I always been always.
Can you speak up a little bit louder, please?
I say always like and the way you always speak.
Thank you. I cannot hear you again.
I say I've been.
Ooh. So then, in fact, if my memory serves me right, that was what she was crying for. And please, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not. I don't say I have all the facts. And I think the rent then was just 100,000. That was what she cried for, and she told her life story and everything and all of that. And I think I was even the one saying that, oh, if you pay the rent now, then how do you sustain the payment of the rent and all of that? I think I was just inquiring just to be able to set up properly. Correct me if I'm wrong on that as we wrap up. Hello, how are you? Last caller.
Hello, Mr. Frank.
Great to have you.
Yeah, Bakari from Ikorodu.
Great to have you, Bakari.
Yes, I've always been interested in you and always like visuals. Power.
Thank you.
I always watch you on the right thing and most time follow.
Thank you, Bakari.
But I follow you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm humbled. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you.
But, I just want something that I wanted to discuss with you.
What's it?
I Yeah, I'm right now.
You're what? Sorry, I'm struggling to hear you.
I say right now, I don't have anything to do.
So what can you do?
I wanted to write tricycle.
You want to ride what?
Tricycle.
You want to ride tricycle?
Yeah, but I'm getting on the stop. I'll be right.
Okay, so give out your number so that whoever might be listening might want to, that might be interested. No. I mean, just give out your number. The best I can do is to give you a platform. I'm not saying I'm God. I don't solve the problem. We return all the glory to God. Yeah, it's not about me. So call your number out. Yeah. Call it loudly, oh. Yes. 263 175 26. Yeah. Yeah.
That is an extra number.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, somebody's correct me. Okay, somebody's correct. He said it was 200, she said, and that the good she has is worth 100. Okay, thank you for correcting me there. So, but even if it was 200, she said, I correct me also, because so if this favor agreement is following the story, so correct me, what she was really happy on was the fact that they wanted to throw out because of the rents. So you have somebody that's pledged 200, is given 100 already, and that should be thank you. Now saying, oh, let's extend it, can do more. No. And we should be careful. I pray as you go this week, God will bless you. He'll give you favor. He'll bring help to you. And He will guide and protect you. And so shall it be. Amen. Thank you so much. Really appreciate each and every one of you. And please, we must have to say, I must have to reiterate, those that are saying division, be careful. It's not as easy as we call it. Be careful. It is well. That's about all we have on the show for you today. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thrilled to see you all here. My name is Sunil Amrith. I'm director of the Macmillan Center. For those of you who don't know, the Macmillan Center is Yale's hub for international scholarship and research, and we serve the whole campus. As part of the Macmillan Center, we have regional studies councils, and the Council on African Studies is our partner in hosting this evening's event. Since 1992, the Coca-Cola World Fund at Yale has supported an annual lecture on topics of international significance by a major public figure. Recent Coca-Cola lecturers have included Ban Ki-moon, Samantha Power, Luis Moreno Ocampo, and Sadaka Ogata. Our councils propose potential Coca-Cola lecture speakers. It'll come as no surprise to all of you that when the Council on African Studies proposed tonight's speaker, there was a unanimous chorus of enthusiasm. To introduce our speaker and to be in conversation with her later, I'd like to introduce my wonderful colleague, Professor Kajetan Iheka, who is Professor of English, Chair of the Council on African Studies, and Director of the Whitney Humanities Center. Professor Iheka is the author of 2 prize-winning books, is editor of the African Studies Review, and is a true leader in the field. Kajetan, please.
Everybody good? Are we ready for this? The masquerade is around, I can assure you that. Thank you so much, Sunil, for that wonderful introduction and for your leadership of the center. About a week ago, the Nigerian political leader posted a congratulatory message on social media. Mr. Obi was congratulating Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie for winning 3 prestigious awards within a space of 3 weeks. They are the Felix Jude Prize for Defiant Thinking from Germany, the Mermaid Award in Sweden. I like that one, Mermaid Award. The Mermaid Award is awarded to a writer whose words have deeply moved Swedish readers. And then there's the Sunday Times Literary Award for Literary Excellence in the United Kingdom. And these three awards happen, within September and early October. These awards provide proof that Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie is a master storyteller whose work sits at the center of world literature, moving readers from Sweden to Slovakia and from London to Lagos. The Jude Prize in honor of defiant thinking clarifies that in the long tradition of fearless Igbo women, she is a thought leader who expresses a position and opinion, however difficult or controversial. These awards testify to an enduring excellence that has garnered a long list of other accolades over the course of a magnificent literary career. Let me name a few: the MacArthur Genius Grant, induction into the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, the Orange Prize for Fiction, the Anisfield Wolf Book Award, over 20 honorary doctorate degrees, including from our own university in 2019. We can go on with this list, but already you don't need me to tell you that our 2025 Coca-Cola lecturer is an award-winning writer, a global icon, an inspiration for musicians and designers all over the world, including Beyoncé. What I would like to add this evening, though, is that Adichie is a theorist and practitioner of emplaced worldliness, whose works navigate the complexities of the global from the rich tapestries of the local. We can glimpse a sense of what I call a poetics of emplaced worldliness in a class day lecture on this campus 6 years ago. In that lecture, she emphasized the importance of local knowledge, the need to recognize those on the ground as knowledge producers. In that same lecture, she remembered her time on our campus as a student of our MA program in African Studies, Go Cass, and of how she learned the primacy of primary sources during her time here. It is this investment in local particularities, the foregrounding of perspectives often overlooked, that makes Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie an ideal speaker for the Macmillan Center. Our distinguished alumna brings this sense of place, that is the tone of geography and the structure of feelings of our subjects, to our body of work. Among them are the novels Popular Hibiscus, Half of a Yellow Sun, Americana, and the more recent Dream Count. These texts and others bring unique stylistic and intellectual innovation to the discourses of gender, colonialism, globalization, and Africa's place in the world. These texts particularly carry the valences of African words with eloquence and with passion. In her renditions of African sensibilities, our guest is committed to the location of dignity and beauty there. I am reminded of one moment in Americana when Obinze is about to be deported from England, a moment that resonates with the vulnerabilities of migrants across the world today. One would expect Obinze to beg and to kick, to want to remain in the land of milk and honey, but that is not what it does. I am willing to go back to Nigeria, Obinze said. The novel continues, and I quote, "The last shard of his dignity was like a wrapper slipping off that he was desperate to retire." Close quote. It wasn't desperate to stay. Desperation here comes from the risk of losing dignity. These words from Adichie's novel enrobe Obinze and Nigeria with dignity, rendering the African space as not only a site of perpetual departure, but also as a place of return, as home. Reversing the outward flow of migrants from the continent, Obinze and the novel's protagonist, Ifemelu, returned to Nigeria despite the challenges of the post-colonial state. Dignity, but also beauty, are the components of emplaced worldliness in Adichie's writings. A beauty that is locatable, for instance, in the Igbo names of Adichie's characters, with their semantic and ethical richness. Think of Olanna, father's treasure, father's jewel in Half of a Yellow Sun. In Americana, we get Ifemelu, Ifemelu Namma, the one made in beauty, produced in good times and in a good place. What is in a name? To take Ifemelu seriously is to see our Creator's calibration of the place of our making, a Nigerian birthplace, as a site of beauty, as a space of light. And then, of course, we have the women in the most recent dream count: Chiamaka, Zikora, Omelogo, Kadiatu. Adichie's naming practice is such that makes you long for one more child, for a daughter, and then you remember that children are expensive and that they're a lot of work. But more seriously, though, these names capture the dreams and aspirations of African peoples, insisting on their dignity and beauty. As our eminent speaker reminds us in Dream Count, every writer makes a choice in depicting a place, an objectified look or a dignified one. One of the achievements of Chimamanda Adichie's career is to again and again look at us and our environment as dignified spaces worthy of literary commemoration. Our fiction and nonfiction makes legible and legitimizes the margin and marginal people, transfiguring them into substantive matter worthy of literary celebration. In December 2022, our Coca-Cola lecturer added another honor, and I'm wrapping up, I promise. She was then crowned a chief by a community in Anambra State, Nigeria, with the title Odeluwa Aba. Another beautiful and dignified name. Odeluwa means one who writes for the world. Odeluwa Aba confirms that this writer of the world writes from a place, from Aba, from Nigeria, from Africa. And we owe our gratitude for the relentless human portrait. To quote again from Dream Count, for the tenderness that she has brought to the work of writing the world from Africa. Colleagues, guests, and our students, please join me in welcoming back home to the Macmillan Center, Odeluwa Aba, Chief Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie.
Thank you. Hello. Hello, everyone. Are you happy? I am. I'm very happy to be here. And that was such a lovely introduction, really. And there's a part of the speech where I quarrel with the academic study of African literature. But having listened to that introduction, I think I'm not going to read that part of the speech because because what Kajetan has done is that he's really just made me realize how wrong and outdated I am in my perception of how African literature is studied. And so I thank you so much for that focus on dignity and beauty. I thank you. And I think it's such an important way to think about African literature, and not just my work, but really in general, writing by African writers, because for so long, our literatures have not been thought of in those ways. And so when I get to that part of the lecture, I'll let you know, and I'll decide how much of it to still say. But it's nice to be back. I was a graduate student here years ago. I hadn't realized how long until I did the math. And then I thought, my God, I'm old. And also things have changed, but I did want to
before I start, just say that I had a wonderful professor and advisor, Anne Bierstika, when I was here, and I did not know that Anne had passed away and only learned about it yesterday. And so I felt deeply sad, and I just want to acknowledge what a wonderful teacher and a lovely human being Anne was, and may her soul rest in peace. I knew very early on in life that I did not want the things I was supposed to want. I also knew that I wanted to write. Both, I think, are connected. The urge to create and the unconscious rejection of the status quo. I want to speak today about writing stories, about writing and about stories, and about being an African writer in the world. So fiction writers, here we go. So fiction writers are often asked about their fiction, about the process, the characters, as I have many times, and I invent my answers. I use the word invent to suggest a welcoming of doubt. And in inventing those answers, sometimes I believe myself and sometimes I do not. Because the truth is that I do not always know the why behind my creative choices. Nor do I trust the process of reducing to intellectually digestible bits the potent mix of magic and intuition and reason that is my creative process. My views about my fiction are fluid, dependent on my mood, whether I slept well, whether I had a glass of wine. But the novels themselves remain in the glorious stillness. And whatever truth there is about the novel lies not in the answers I give, but in that stillness. I have always believed that a novel is sublime, while the novelist is, well, merely the novelist. And I cannot help but think often of Goethe's rule: the artist's task is to create, not to talk. But a novel is, of course, also created in a social and political world and bears the sensibility of the writer, a sensibility which I believe is formed in childhood. I am the daughter of parents who were remarkable, not for their professional achievements, though those were significant, but for the steadfastness and joyousness of their parental love. My father was a professor of statistics, and my mother was a university administrator, and they raised my siblings and me on the campus of the University of Nigeria in Nsukka. Nsukka was a slow and small and utterly lovely place in the early 1980s, the last gasp of the university's sparkling age. The campus had entrance gates with security guards in uniform, many of them elderly men with gentle demeanors. Before each car drove through, the driver would stop, get out of the car, and open the boot, or the trunk, as I am now compelled to say in America. Checking cars as they left the campus was really a ritual and a symbol of apartness and specialness, a reminder that the campus was not part of the larger town. It was a world of its own, safe and gently superior, with its own churches, one Catholic, one Protestant, a children's library, a medical center, a staff primary school, a swimming pool, a tennis court. And when the general electricity was cut off, the campus generators came on. This was the kingdom of my childhood. It was a happy childhood. But I'm not sure I knew at the time that it was a happy childhood. It seems to me that we often recognize happiness only in retrospect. Or maybe a happy child just goes through life too busy being happy to think of being happy. Childhood creates our worldview. My father died in June of 2020, and my mother, shockingly, painfully, only months later on my father's birthday, March 1st. Nothing has left me as shaken and as broken. It has brought to me a new definition of childhood, a time when I thought my loving parents would always be there. The writer Isabel Allende, who writes very wise and deeply felt fiction, once said, "I was such a sullen, angry, sad kid. I'm sure there are writers who have had happy childhoods, but what are they going to write about? No ghosts, no fear? What are we going to write about indeed, those writers with happy childhoods? It is not so much that we would have nothing to write about, I think, as it is that we might approach our writing differently. It is not the absence of ghosts or fear, but that the preeminent impression of childhood is not ghosts and fear. That someone was there to hush you through the fear and clip the wings of the ghosts. And because the ghosts were conquerable, you hold your pen differently. When I was 5, my father was appointed Deputy Vice Chancellor of the university and was assigned a new house on campus. And so we moved from number 13 in Banefu Street to number 305 Margaret Cartwright Avenue. I remember the house as it was then, a light blue 2-story house in an expansive compound, the green hedge of whistling pine, the row of purple bougainvillea, the white lilies that shrank and died each harmattan and then magically flowered again when the rains came. The yellow roses by my mother's garage, the trees in the back, avocado, cashew, mango, and the tall, lonely oil palm. I remember playing badminton with my brothers on the lawn. We used a rope as our net and then argued interminably about whether the shuttle had gone over or under. I remember the frangipani tree that we climbed and from which I once fell, a fall that left a mark on my arm. And because I am spatially challenged, it is the mark that I now use to tell my left from my right. It's true. I remember that the guava tree had a kind of elegant slouch to its branches, and it was on its thickened stem that the fluffy white chickens bought in the market were tied before our house help killed them for Sunday lunch. I remember riding my bicycle up and down the slope of Margaret Cartwright Avenue. All the other children loved going downhill, but I hated the loss of control, and so I went, not fast and thrilled as they did, but slowly, carefully cradling the bicycle's brakes. I remember the disgustingly flat, oversized cockroaches that crawled in with the rainy season and smelled utterly horrible. We called them American cockroaches. They were not the usual smaller Nigerian cockroaches, and I'm not sure why they were called American cockroaches, but perhaps it is not unreasonable to label as American anything that is larger than normal. I remember our gardener, whose name was Jomo, watering the plants with a metal watering can, and my brother, Oke, following him around, listening to Jomo's stories. One day, Jomo told Oke a story different from his usual animal tales. He said his eyes had once been red, bright red, because he had fought in the Nigeria-Biafra War and had killed people, and the blood of those he killed had stained his eyes. But after the war, he did a cleansing ritual where he swore that he had not killed any innocent people, and right afterwards, his eyes lost the redness. My brother must have been about 10 and I about 7, but the story stayed with me, strange and dark, and also somehow redeeming. Many years later, I wrote my novel about the Nigerian-Biafra War, Half of a Yellow Sun. There is a character in the novel called Jomo, who is Jomo and also not Jomo. Just as when I am writing fiction, I am me and also not. Proust has famously written about the novelist's different selves, how the self that writes fiction is different from the everyday self who goes shopping and eats and goes for a walk. I am different when I write fiction, not entirely unhinged from my other self, of course, but different still. A kind of heightened, liquid, suspended state of being, cerebral, but also deeply intuitive, spiritual even, an ancestral bequest, an ancient condition. With a writing process like mine, it is difficult not to believe in, or at least engage with, faith. For to write as I do is to be acquainted with the possibility of mystery, of the unknown and the unknowable. In writing fiction, I surprise myself just as characters surprise me. The writer Elizabeth Bowen said that writers do not create characters but have to find them because they pre-exist, an idea that appeals to me. Sometimes when I talk about a character surprising me in the course of my writing, I am met with suspicion, understandable suspicion. What do you mean the character surprised you? I mean, you wrote the bloody book. But in this case, I do truly believe myself. I believe myself too when I say this. I did not choose writing. Writing chose me. Nobody has expressed my relationship to my writing as perfectly as Zadie Smith did in a lecture while speaking of her own relationship with her writing, and so I will quote her. I experienced writing as a permanent emergency state, believing if I devoted time to anything else, I would run out of time and then not have the time to write what I felt I had to write. But why this urgency exactly? Nobody asked me to write. I have to resort to a medieval and unfashionable word, vocation. I felt writing was my vocation. That's where the quote ends. Vocation, an old-fashioned word indeed, but no less accurate for being old-fashioned. I do not know a time when I was not drawn to story, to human emotion, to human motivation, to dreaming and thinking, to watching and to seeing. This is all I have ever known, this longing, the sense of being always one step removed, one step apart and watching the world. Writing's grip on the emotional boundaries of my life is inflexible. Without it, my sense of who I am would shrink almost to nothing. If I did not have the good fortune I have today to be published and to be read, for which I'm very grateful, I would be somewhere unknown, but writing. I have this memory from childhood. I'm sitting in the backseat of my mother's car as we drove to the market, and I'm looking out of the window, and suddenly I feel an intense pang of melancholy, because what I saw through the window as we drove were stories, so many stories, and I knew that I would not be able to tell them all. The writer John Updike said this about writing: we must write where we stand. Wherever we do stand, there is life, and an imitation of the life we know, however narrow, is our only ground. We write where we stand. And at the beginning, I stood at number 305 Margaret Cartwright Avenue, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. It was in that house that I first began to write. I wrote sitting at my father's desk in his study. I wrote in lined exercise books. For Americans who don't know what exercise book is, look it up. It has nothing to do with working out. Oh, I thought it was important. I mean, we can talk about language later, but I sometimes think that translation is interesting because you have to think about what words you leave in their original state. You know, do you say boot or trunk? When you're talking about my childhood, I would say boot. But anyway, so exercise books. Or I wrote at the dining table, often first clearing away food flasks and newspapers and bananas and whatever else had been deposited on that hallowed family dumping ground. It was at that dining table that we gathered when the Nigerian military took over the government in a coup, and then in another coup. Each time, the martial music with its ghostly strains, the voice of the army officer, the queasy uncertainty of political choicelessness. Before we moved into number 305 Margaret Cartwright Avenue, the previous occupant happened to be in an odd bit of coincidence that would later gain significance, the acclaimed writer Chinua Achebe, who was also a staff of the university. I did not think much of this growing up. After all, university staff moved in and out of university housing. Until many years later, when my first novel was about to be published here in the US, my editor asked me to tell her about my life. And I did. And then I added, oh, by the way, Chinua Achebe lived in the university house in which I grew up. And she said, her eyes wide, that is the most interesting thing you have told me about yourself. And so at that moment, I resolved to make sure that this was always included in my biography as one of my life's great achievements. It was in that house that I began to read. Susan Sontag wrote that reading, the love of reading, is what makes you dream of becoming a writer. But for me, the reading nourished the dream. It walked alongside the dream, but it was not the origin of the dream. They were related, of course, but I recognized the desire to write as more primal, as if reading was a great passion and writing was simply me. I remember the books of my childhood as physical things, some with covers torn off, spines cracked, others with the stiff and transparent plastic cover from the library. I remember books as mood and place, reading curled up in bed during heavy rains, reading as I ate at the dining table, and I remember books as absolute luminous pleasure. I read everything except for fantasy. Perhaps because the world seemed to me so interesting and layered that it felt like an unforgivable evasion to inhabit imaginary worlds while the mysteries of our own world were yet to be fully deciphered. Books nurtured my writing. My earliest writing were imitations of the British children's books I read. But so did watching the world and listening, from the small gradations of life in Nsukka to my mother's King Lear-esque insults, swiftly delivered in Igbo whenever she was annoyed. Nkita la chaganya. May a dog lick your eyes. Kitipa babuegi. May chicken pox strike you down. No. I see my mother now through childhood eyes with her effervescent beauty, her charm. She was keen always to welcome everyone and feed everyone. There was always so much food in our house. She was wondrously ambitious. She became the first woman to head the non-academic section of the university. Her name was Grace. And I just want to pause here. There is a baby at the back of the room whose name is also Grace. And she is my parents' first great-grandchild. And my parents did not get to see her. And she's called Grace. And she's just the most wondrous gift that my family has. And I'm so delighted that she's here. And I think she might become a writer. We're starting early. My mother's name was Grace, and in her secondary school days, she was called GC London because she was known to speak English beautifully, therefore the London. But nobody was as inventive as my mother was when she issued her insults in Igbo. And just one last one I'll share with you. Neki di kikapi. She once told our house help this, and it translates literally to, you have the backside of a scorpion. And the poor guy who was being reprimanded actually burst into laughter. I grew up bilingual, as did almost everyone I knew in that small university town in southeastern Nigeria. We spoke English and Igbo at home. Sometimes we spoke English and Igbo in the same sentence, as do some characters in my novels. Before I published my first novel here in the US in 2003, an editor suggested that I remove the sprinkling of Igbo words because, she said, they would confuse American readers. I happened to have just read Saul Bellow's novel, Herzog, and feeling a little smug and a little clever, I asked the editor, have you seen the long paragraphs of untranslated French in Herzog? Of course, I understand that French is a much more familiar language to the American reader than Igbo is, but they're both languages, both valued by those who speak them, both worthy. And literature is our last frontier for a true picture of our world as it is, the polyglot, multifaceted, multi-everything. The writer Louise Erdrich has written about Native American languages rapidly dying off because the Bureau of American Indian Affairs humiliated and punished Native American children for speaking their languages. Yet, she wrote, the omnivorous nature of a colonial language is a writer's gift. In place of gift, I might invent another word for a gift that isn't quite a gift. A thing imposed on you, but which you now own. Wait, what was that? There's a story there. Okay. And so in place of gift, I might invent another word that means a gift that isn't quite a gift, a thing imposed on you, but which you now own. For English is mine, as much as Igbo is mine. I write in English because English is the only language in which I can write, which in turn is because the language of education in Nigeria is English. In primary school, we were not allowed to speak Igbo in class. It was called speaking in the vernacular. And the word vernacular was wrapped in shame. I look back now at the absurdity of it and also the great sadness of it, how colonialism's most insidious legacy is its ability to make you denigrate that which is yours. But many of us did not succumb to this ignoble shabbiness. And in my case, I think it was because of the stories my father told us. My father was a radiant storyteller, and he spoke a beautiful Igbo, unsullied by Anglicizations as ours was. He told stories of his childhood and folk stories and stories his father had told him. I loved the proverbs, the wit, the humor, the wisdom, and I would soak them all up, absorb them, store them, and I began to feel a distinct sense of pride about the Igbo culture from which these stories came. Pride at my good fortune to have come from a wise and humorous and enterprising and just people. An almost epic sense of personal history, which caused me to assume my place in the world as unquestioned, just naturally so. As a child, I may not have questioned my place in the world, but I asked many questions of the world. I was educated in a Nigerian system in which questioning was not necessarily rewarded. In secondary school, I always got straight A's, which would have pleased any parent. But each last day of term, my stomach would tighten with anxiety because my teachers often wrote comments about what they termed my lack of respect, which invariably led to stern parental talks. Lack of respect was really my roving, restless curiosity, my delight in intellectual argument, my refusal to accept easy answers, my reluctance to perform a certain kind of exaggerated deference. I see now, looking back, that I could very well have been an annoying child. And yet, I wish the adults who had formal authority over me had known how to guide my questioning. Many of my questions were about religion, or more specifically about the Catholic Church, because I was raised Roman Catholic. And I was immersed from birth into a life of religious ritual. We went to Mass every Sunday, all dressed up. And after Mass, we drove to town to buy newspapers and snacks. I was drawn to the rituals of Mass, of benediction, of confession. How could a creative child not be? The rich dramatic potential, the mix of pathos and hope. Paschal Mass at Easter stands out in my memory. So many people gathered together outside at night, holding their candles high. I would look at the sea of flickering candles, the lights like stars low enough to reach out and touch, and I would cry, deeply moved by the sight and the symbolism. My family's Catholicism was moderate but conservative, the African permutation of Roman Catholicism with its subtle and not so subtle disparagement of pre-Christian Africa. To be baptized, for example, you had to choose an English name because the reasoning was English was Christian and African languages were not. Years later, as an adult, when I decided that I no longer wanted to have an English name, an acquaintance said to me, "So you won't have a Christian name?" To which I said, "I do have a Christian name, it's Ngozi." Attending catechism class, and there we learned Catholic doctrine. And there too, I asked questions about limbo, where the souls of babies floated and waited, about burning forever in hell, yet not being consumed. Once the teacher, we called him brother, said there were questions one should never ask, and I recoiled fiercely. Because even as a child, I recognized that my vocation is rooted in the imagination, and the imagination is the home of questions. Why? How? Where? And most of all, what if? I am fascinated by faith, the human need to make sense of the mystery that is our existence, and the humility of acknowledging that there is so much we do not know and perhaps cannot know. Mine is a respectful, probing fascination, wistful, even admiring, but always pitilessly clear-eyed. I am fascinated by the genuine embrace of a religion brought to you in the most irreligious way, as part of that harsh, soulless dictatorship called colonialism. I am fascinated by a source of comfort that can also distort your life, by the ease to extremism, being righteous but not being right. My first novel, Purple Hibiscus, has a father character whose blind Roman Catholic religiosity has terrible consequences for his family. After it was first published, I was often told by Americans and Europeans that my novel was a political allegory, that my abusive father character represented Nigeria's brutal dictator. Why, I wondered, must my characters represent something political? Obviously, I know the reasons that modern African novels have their roots in the anti-colonial struggle, and that so little African writing is known outside Africa that the easy response is always to read it first as political anthropology, rather than as a story of human beings. But it does not change the truth, which is that when I sat down to write the father character in Purple Hibiscus, I was not thinking, I shall now write an important allegorical representation of Nigeria's military culture. Instead, a character had come to me with a hushed voice and an almost broken spirit, a teenage girl who was nothing like me and who I wanted to explore. I should clarify that my questioning this was not because I disagreed about my work being political. I agreed that it was. Rather, I questioned it because it seemed that some writing was read this way and others were not. And this distinction was based not on the content of the writing, but on the personal history of the writer. A kind of categorizing based not on literary judgments, but on lazy cultural assumptions. Because unless we insist on a narrow and incomplete definition of politics, what today is not political? In that sense, then, all fiction is political simply because the writing does not exist in a vacuum. All stories come, even if obliquely, from social and political realities. W.E.B. Du Bois once said that all art is propaganda. And this is the kind of statement that is very easy to disagree with because of the ideas we have about art and about propaganda, where the former is pure and the latter is a kind of deliberate spreading of often insidious information. But when we think about a more nuanced meaning of propaganda, then Du Bois becomes easier to agree with. And here's a quote from Du Bois. All art is propaganda and ever must be, despite the wailing of the purists. I stand in utter shamelessness and say that whatever art I have for writing has been used always for propaganda, for gaining the right of Black folk to love and to enjoy. I do not care a damn for any art that is not used for propaganda. But I do care when propaganda is confined to one side while the other is stripped and silent. Du Bois was speaking in the context of what he called Negro art, the art of African Americans who were not allowed by the white establishment to write about certain subjects. But in a larger sense, perhaps Du Bois was saying that we cannot pretend that literature falls from the sky, unburdened by value or by history. She agrees. When I read English writers I admire, such as Graham Greene and Virginia Woolf, I am being delighted and entertained, but I'm also learning of a certain sensibility, a certain Englishness. And yet, it would not be the instinct of the average reader to think of such writers as political. And so, my prickliness on this issue is based on my belief that, as Horace wrote, the goal of literature is to instruct and delight. And we must allow African literature to do both. When I'm at book events, so this is the part of the speech that I might have to change now, but I think I'll say it anyway, and then I'll revise it. So at book events, I can always tell who is studying African literature from their questions. And these are the questions that least interest me because of their insistence on everything being post-colonial, because of their deadening preoccupation with theme rather than character, and because of the realization that characters in African novels are not likely to be conceived as sources of delight, or that they're too often seen as characters to whom bad colonial things happened. Bad colonial things did happen, indeed, are still happening. And yet, I long for my characters to be seen, as Toni Morrison said of her characters, as characters who are unavailable to pity. This tendency to read African literature as anthropology or as political allegory fills me with a kind of wistful resentment, especially when I hear students speak of their favorite of Louisa May Alcott's women, or which of Jane Austen's characters were really badass. But I'm now going to revise it because because Kajatan has made me rethink my single story of literature programs. And again, I really want to thank you. I do think that his words represent a change. I'm sure I'm outdated, but at least 15 years ago, this was the norm, 10 years ago even. And I would often be frustrated at not being asked about love and despair and human motivation and and all of those complicated human things. I was so sick of being told that somehow my characters were about dictatorship or whatever the hell else. And so, in addition to politics and anthropology, I have discovered that part of being an African writer in the world is to be expected also to be an activist. I've often been told, of course, you must write about the political situation in your country. Or actually in other countries. Someone said to me not long ago, why haven't you written about Congo? And what I did not say to that well-meaning person was, because actually I want to lie in bed and read poetry. Because this is true, I do want often to lie in bed and read poetry. But at the same time, I do also often write about the political situation in my country. I recently wrote a public letter about the Nigerian elections because I wanted to tell the story of what happened. And telling the story of what happened has become important in a world so eager to deny and distort even recent history. I wrote it to bear witness. I want to bear witness because I can. And because I can, I believe I must. But I don't think a fiction writer must necessarily be politically engaged, especially an African one. The only role of the writer, wherever they come from, is to write literature. Because really, it's a never-ending enterprise. Cormac McCarthy put it really well when he wrote, "You always have this image of the perfect thing which you can never achieve, but which you never stop trying to achieve." Like most Igbo families, we had a second home in my father's ancestral hometown, Aba. And it was to this home, or the village, as we called it, that we journeyed at Christmas. Our house was a 2-story building. There was a red gate, a sandy yard. Once my mother attempted the planting of flowers in our yard, but some stray village goats made their way into our compound when the gateman neglected to close the gates, and these resourceful animals saw in the red and yellow flowers a perfectly colorful feast. And so that was that for flowers in the village. In my part of Igbo land, pythons are considered sacred. My sister Ije, who is the grandmother of baby Grace, told me a story of a python she found curled in my grandmother's outhouse years before I was born. My sister was terrified, but my grandmother merely walked over and spoke gently to the python, asking it to please leave so as not to scare the children. The python then uncurled itself and slid away. There were many other stories I heard in the village of people turning into animals or going to secret nightly meetings in the bottom of the sea. These stories were told with the ordinary tone of the mundane. So when I discovered years later a genre of writing called magical realism, I felt a kind of resistance to the name because I knew of this world where the so-called magical was seen as real, and therefore the qualification of magical was unnecessary. I did not need to believe these stories. I respected how much they shaped the lives of those in my village who believed them. To be back in my village today is to feel a sense of an almost atavistic belonging. It is quite simply my home. It is where I want to be buried. And this rootedness to my ancestral hometown, this metaphysical attachment to a physical place, is very freeing to the creative impulse. I can roam as far as I want because in my mind, there is a home waiting, always there. The highlight of those Christmases in the village during my childhood was the masquerades. The big masquerades appeared with much noise and music and commotion, and children were filled with excitement at going to see them. They were violent, flogging one another with long sticks and sometimes thick ropes, and they were beautifully grotesque. One Christmas, the big masquerade, which was called Awonatumbe, which I should translate, it means the snake that does something to the tortoise. I just realized the translation doesn't sound terrifying enough, but this masquerade was terrifying. And it appeared only once in many years. I was excited until I was told I could not join my brothers at the gate to peek out as this masquerade went past. Why? I asked. Well, because girls can't. The stark and unrelieved unfairness of this made a huge impression on me as a child. It also felt like one of the many things adults did that just wasn't very sensible. It was my introduction to the parts of Igbo culture that decreed that simply by being born female, you were automatically excluded from so much that was beneficial. You could not inherit property. You could not participate in the most prestigious ceremonies. You could not have an equal say. The Igbo people pride themselves on historically being an island of democracy in a sea of autocratic kingdoms. And so just as we speak of universal ideas when we mean male ideas, ancient Greece as the cradle of democracy, even though women could not vote, and we speak of the Renaissance, even though women were excluded from intellectual life, and we speak of the Enlightenment, even though women could not control their property nor have higher education, so too Igbo land. It was indeed decentralized and democratic, but it was a male-only democracy. This story of the masquerade is one I pull out from time to time to illustrate a kind of political awakening to my existence in the world as a woman. It is a convenient story and a true story, but it is incomplete because it is too simple. My awakening happened before then. I had already observed the tiny nuances in language, how a professor, for example, was called strong, and a woman professor like him was called arrogant. How a relative whose husband brutally beat her was told to go back and beg him because a woman without a husband was nothing. I already knew that it was women who died of broken hearts, not men. That women were socialized to give value to romantic relationships in ways that men were not. Children notice subtleties at very early ages. I did not, of course, have the language for what I sensed and saw. And it was years before I came to know that word feminism, which for me is a way of dreaming of a more just world. That great African icon, Thomas Sankara, said, "The revolution and women's liberation go together. We do not talk of women's emancipation as an act of charity or out of a surge of human compassion. It is a basic necessity for the revolution to triumph." And for me, in place of revolution, I like to insert other words like progress, justice, or even peace. And I wish that African leaders today would read Thomas Sankara. But for all of my enduring dedication to feminism, I recoil whenever I am described as a feminist writer. I am not a feminist writer. I am a writer who is also a feminist. To add the label of a movement before the word writer is to take a rusty, jagged knife and hack at the sublime. We should have political causes close to our hearts. Our work will engage with those causes because they are part of our lives. But to give its name to our vocation is to suggest something coarse, an expectation of ideological correctness. And novels should never be ideologically correct because life is never ideologically correct. Novels should be true, and truth is messy. Truth often has corners filled with contradiction. A story is a very powerful thing. Stories can take away dignity. Stories can also restore dignity. Stories shape politics and perception. I cannot tell you how many times I've been told by people from different parts of the world after reading my novels that they finally started to see Nigeria. really see Nigeria. After my second novel, Half of a Yellow Sun, was published, I was stunned by how many people embraced it as their own personal history, those who had experienced the Nigerian Biafran War. At my readings, women would start to cry and say, "Thank you for telling the story and for finally making it possible to tell my family what I went through." Men would get choked up talking about how they had been conscripted as boys. Young people would get emotional talking about how they finally understood their parents. I will never forget how moved I was to read many years ago. Nelson Mandela described Chinua Achebe's novel Things Fall Apart. He called it the book in whose presence the prison walls came down. In this way, literature becomes more than itself. Today, African children go to elite boarding schools and learn about Greek mythology. But what is the difference between Persephone, the Greek goddess of planting seeds, and Allah, the Igbo goddess of land? It is merely that one story has been told well and the other has not. It is through stories that we can turn our myths into memory. I'm reminded of a conversation I eavesdropped on. I do this all the time. I really recommend, if there's anybody here who's thinking about starting to write fiction, and I encourage anyone who's even thinking about it to write. We need many stories. But if you're thinking about writing fiction, I really recommend eavesdropping. This is how you learn the cadence of language. And cafes are really the best venues for this. But I did eavesdrop in a conversation, and a person, an African, not a Nigerian, was talking about somebody who had said there are no skyscrapers in major African cities. And this person got very upset and said, "There's skyscrapers in Nairobi and in Lagos." And I remember listening to that and thinking, the problem with this is that somehow this African had accepted that skyscrapers should be the basis on which to measure development. We need stories so that we can resist the trap of allowing our aspirations as Africans to be shaped by others. I'm not advocating a defensiveness, but rather a proactiveness. Because even the idea of a nation is also about stories. A nation is not geography. A nation is psychology. A nation is really about shared beliefs. A nation without a strong sense of itself cannot thrive. And so we need stories in order to know ourselves. There is rage at the heart of creativity. I experience this sometimes as a simmering, low-burning presence, and other times as a struggle to resist despair. But there is also hope, and it comes from the possibility of what stories can achieve. And I have always believed that there is nothing more essential for the human spirit than hope. Literature is really our last frontier, the story of human motivation. It is difficult to dehumanize a person whose story you have really heard. The story forces you to see them. I worry deeply about the effects of our present epidemic of censorship. Toni Morrison said censorship is like a whole universe being described in invisible ink. I mourn all that has stayed unwritten and unsaid. I like to think of literature as my religion. Reading does not necessarily make us have empathy for others, but it can. And by far the greatest lesson I have learned is how we are more alike than not. That we may show love differently, but we all love. That what matters to us may differ, but we all want to matter. That it is as important to extend grace as it is to expect grace. And that dignity is always as important as food. And I would like to end with some words from one of my favorite writers, the South African Bessie Head. When Bessie Head was asked the question, "Why do you write?" her response was this: I am building a stairway to the stars. I have the authority to take the whole of mankind up there with me. That is why I write. Thank you.
Thank you. Darling, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Adelora, thank you so much. I have a lot of questions, but I will wait to ask that. I will wait to ask them privately. I just want to open up to 2 questions from the audience before we wrap up tonight. 2 questions, preferably from students, if there are any. The first 2, and then we will wrap it up. Okay. Oh my God, I knew this was going to happen. All right, I'll take one from here.
During your writing process. Thank you so much for sharing. I was wondering, during your writing process, do you experience a preoccupation with elegance in how you say things, and does that differ if you're writing nonfiction versus fiction?
That's such an interesting expression. That's such an interesting expression, preoccupation with elegance. You write, don't you? Yes. Yeah, based on that question, I'd like to read you. Do you write fiction or nonfiction? Nonfiction. None? It's interesting. Preoccupation with elegance. I think that preoccupation with elegance is a useful way to start. But I think at some point, and so to your question, yes. I think increasingly, and as a reader, I've always been drawn to writers who you can tell are preoccupied with elegance, that there are many ways to write one sentence, and that just putting effort into how the sentence is written as much as what you're trying to say with the sentence is important. And because as I've become older and hopefully wiser, I've come to feel strongly about poetry being part of prose. So when I'm writing fiction, I read poetry. I don't like to read fiction when I'm writing fiction. Partly because I'm worried about reading something I love and then somehow copying it. So I read a lot of poetry. But of course, to read poetry and writing fiction is really, I think, to be preoccupied with elegance. But with nonfiction, maybe not so much. And I should say, fiction is the love of my life. Nonfiction is something I do sometimes. So you can understand why I don't, I don't love it as much as fiction really is. It's my vocation. And yes, the preoccupation with elegance is important to me. Good luck with your own writing. That sentence just tells me that the writing is good.
Okay, we'll take one from here. Yes, right here.
Hello. I had a question about what do you do when, well, it was probably different writing when, no one knew you and now everyone knows you. And with that comes expectations of what your writing should be like and what the next book is going to be and how good it should be, right? So how do you deal with those expectations? Or perhaps when people try to cage you into a specific style of writing, how do you deal with that?
Well, I'm still working on getting everyone to know me. We're not there yet, but if you want to join the movement, sign up online. But I think the premise of the question, and really honestly, and like I said when I was speaking, if I did not have the good fortune to be read, I would be writing today. You would not have, but I would be writing. So for me, the writing is the thing that comes first. And when I'm writing, honestly, I do not remember that I'm well known or whatever. I really do not remember because it's such an intense and inward thing. I remember only when an editor is looking at it and an editor is making suggestions like, oh, why don't we reduce the Igbo words, that kind of thing. But no, the idea of external expectations has never been a thing that has shaped my writing. And I think it's partly because, when it's not a career, it's a vocation. When I was thinking about my future, when I was 14 and 15, and I was supposed to be a doctor, because everyone who does well in school is supposed to be a doctor. And at some point, I had made peace with that. And so my thinking was, yes, I'll be a doctor. And I thought, I'm going to be a psychiatrist. And during the day, I'm going to see my patients. And at night, I'll write using my patients' stories. That was the plan. That was the plan. But the point, because I thought, what part of medicine can aid my writing? The point of this is simply to say that even when I was younger, my conception of a career and vocation were different. So I was thinking of, yes, I'll be a doctor, that will be a career, so I can, pay my rent. But writing was the vocation. And I think because that has always been the way that I think about writing, I just do not think about, I really don't. And I've written books that I've written the novels I want to write. And I have been surprised sometimes by the reception. I can tell you quite frankly that when I was writing American, I thought everybody's going to hate this book. But I was like, this is the book I want to write. This is the thing that is calling me. And I thought, my God, Americans will hate it. And I have to tell you, my love for Americans blossomed after Americana came out because I thought, my God, they really can take a joke. Right? My God, they're buying the damn book. So no, but I just want to say this to anybody here, especially sort of if you're a student and you're starting out and you're thinking about writing. It's really important, and it might sound a little glib because the sort of thing you hear, be true to yourself, but it really is important to tell the story you want to tell. Every story has been told, right? It's the new nuance you bring to it. It's the new detail. It's the new point of view. It's something, but it's yours, right? It's really important to stay true to that. The conventional wisdom is always overturned. So people will say to you, oh, if you're writing about so and so, nobody will buy it. But then there's always the story of somebody who was told that and then people bought the book. When I started, when I was going to publish Purple Hibiscus and I was sending it out to agents and so many of them rejected it. And many of those agents now are sending me emails, ha ha ha. And many of and they would say things to me like, you're writing about a place that nobody knows. And one said to me, it's not even the big city in Nigeria that you're writing about. And then they said to me, there's nobody like you, so we can't sell you because the publishing industry was and still is quite, there's a strange conservatism at the heart of the publishing industry. And it's a very risk-averse industry. And so often an editor wants to say, this writer is the new so-and-so. And so agents said to me, we can't sell you because there's nobody like you. And then an agent said, very helpfully, if you were Indian, I would say that you were the new Arundhati Roy. Because Arundhati Roy at the time had published a book that had done very well. And so this agent said to me, well, if you were Indian, I could say that, but you're not. And I thought, well, sorry, I'm not. But the point is, finally, an agent took me on, and this book that I had been told that nobody would buy, independent bookstores were hand selling them, and it became an independent bestseller. And so I just think it's so important to say to anybody and really any kind of creative work, like just do the thing that calls you. And conventional wisdom doesn't matter. I just think that creative work that's done in an authentic way will find a home. So really, I write what I want to write. And each novel that I finish, in my mind, I'm thinking they're going to hate it. But I think it's also my way of sort of preparing myself, right? So I say to myself, yeah, they'll hate it, but whatever, who cares? And then when they love it, it makes it doubly pleasurable.
Adelu has been traveling, has been on the road, so we will let her get some rest. I would say, go get Dream Count. It's out there. Read the novel, but also there's an author's note at the end that I think is really fascinating for thinking about some of the things I've been said here, but also I want to say your theory of the novel, is coming through in the author's note. So please join me in thanking Odeluwa.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Thrilled to see you all here. My name is Sunil Amrith. I'm director of the Macmillan Center. For those of you who don't know, the Macmillan Center is Yale's hub for international scholarship and research, and we serve the whole campus. As part of the Macmillan Center, we have regional studies councils, and the Council on African Studies is our partner in hosting this evening's event. Since 1992, the Coca-Cola World Fund at Yale has supported an annual lecture on topics of international significance by a major public figure. Recent Coca-Cola lecturers have included Ban Ki-moon, Samantha Power, Luis Moreno Ocampo, and Sadaka Ogata. Our councils propose potential Coca-Cola lecture speakers. It'll come as no surprise to all of you that when the Council on African Studies proposed tonight's speaker, there was a unanimous chorus of enthusiasm. To introduce our speaker and to be in conversation with her later, I'd like to introduce my wonderful colleague, Professor Kajetan Iheka, who is Professor of English, Chair of the Council on African Studies, and Director of the Whitney Humanities Center. Professor Iheka is the author of 2 prize-winning books, is editor of the African Studies Review, and is a true leader in the field. Kajetan, please.
Everybody good? Are we ready for this? The masquerade is around, I can assure you that. Thank you so much, Sunil, for that wonderful introduction and for your leadership of the center. About a week ago, the Nigerian political leader posted a congratulatory message on social media. Mr. Obi was congratulating Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie for winning 3 prestigious awards within a space of 3 weeks. They are the Felix Jude Prize for Defiant Thinking from Germany, the Mermaid Award in Sweden. I like that one, Mermaid Award. The Mermaid Award is awarded to a writer whose words have deeply moved Swedish readers. And then there's the Sunday Times Literary Award for Literary Excellence in the United Kingdom. And these 3 awards happen, within September and early October. These awards provide proof that Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie is a master storyteller whose work sits at the center of world literature, moving readers from Sweden to Slovakia and from London to Lagos. The Jude Prize in honor of defiant thinking verifies that in the long tradition of fearless Igbo women, she is a thought leader who expresses a position and opinion, however difficult or controversial. These awards testify to an enduring excellence that has garnered a long list of other accolades over the course of a magnificent literary career. Let me name a few. The MacArthur Genius Grant, induction into the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, the Orange Prize for Fiction, the Anisfield Wolf Book Award, over 20 honorary doctorate degrees, including from our own university in 2019. We can go on with this list, but already you don't need me to tell you that our 2025 Coca-Cola lecturer is an award-winning writer, a global icon, an inspiration for musicians and designers all over the world, including Beyoncé. What I would like to add this evening, though, is that Adichie is a theorist and practitioner of emplaced worldliness, whose works navigate the complexities of the global from the rich tapestries of the local. We can glimpse a sense of what I call a poetics of emplaced worldliness in a class day lecture on this campus 6 years ago. In that lecture, she emphasized the importance of local knowledge, the need to recognize those on the ground as knowledge producers. In that same lecture, she remembered her time on our campus as a student of our MA program in African Studies. Go, Cass. And of how she learned the primacy of primary sources during her time here. It is this investment in local particularities, the foregrounding of perspectives, often over Adichie, an ideal speaker for the Macmillan Center. Our distinguished alumna brings this sense of place, that is, the tone of geography and the structure of feelings of our subjects to our body of work. Among them are the novels Popular Hibiscus, Half of a Yellow Sun, Americana, and the more recent Dream Count. These texts and others bring unique stylistic and intellectual innovation to the discourses of gender, colonialism, globalization, and Africa's place in the world. These texts particularly carry the valencies of African words with eloquence and with passion. In her renditions of African sensibilities, our guest is committed to the location of dignity and beauty there. I am reminded of one moment in Americana when Obinze is about to be deported from England, a moment that resonates with the vulnerabilities of migrants across the world today. One would expect Obinze to beg and to kick, to want to remain in the land of milk and honey. But that is not what he does. I am willing to go back to Nigeria, Obinze said. The novel continues, and I quote, "The last shard of his dignity was like a wrapper slipping off that he was desperate to retire." Close quote. He wasn't desperate to stay. Desperation here comes from the risk of losing dignity. These words from Adichie's novel enrobe Obinze and Nigeria with dignity, rendering the African space as not only a site of perpetual departure, but also as a place of return, as home. Reversing the outward flow of migrants from the continent, Obinze and the novel's protagonist, Ifemelu, return to Nigeria, despite the challenges of the post-colonial state. Dignity, but also beauty, are the components of emplaced worldliness in Adichie's writings. A beauty that is locatable, for instance, in the Igbo names of Adichie's characters, with their semantic and ethical richness. Think of Olanna, Father's Treasure, Father's Jewel in Half of a Yellow Sun. In Americana, we get Ifemelu, Ifemelu Namma, the one made in beauty, produced in good times and in a good place. What is in a name? To take Ifemelu seriously is to see a creator's calibration of the place of our making, a Nigerian birthplace, as a site of beauty, as a space of light. And then, of course, we have the women in the most recent Dream Count: Chiamaka, Zikora, Omelogo, Kadiatu. Adichie's naming practice is such that makes you long for one more child, for a daughter, and then you remember that children are expensive and that they're a lot of work. But more seriously, though, these names capture the dreams and aspirations of African peoples, insisting on their dignity and beauty. As our eminent speaker reminds us in Dream Count, every writer makes a choice in depicting a place, an objectified look or a dignified one. One of the achievements of Chimamanda Adichie's career is to again and again look at us and our environment as dignified spaces worthy of literary commemoration. Our fiction and nonfiction makes legible and legitimizes the margin and marginal people, transfiguring them into substantive matter worthy of literary celebration. In December 2022, our Coca-Cola lecturer added another honor, and I'm wrapping up, I promise. She was then crowned a chief by a community in Anambra State, Nigeria, with the title Odeluwa Aba. Another beautiful and dignified name. Odeluwa means one who writes for the world. Odeluwa Aba confirms that this writer of the world writes from a place, from Aba, from Nigeria, from Africa. And we owe her gratitude for the relentless human portrait. To quote again from Dream Count, for the tenderness that she has brought to the work of writing the world from Africa. Colleagues, guests, and our students, please join me in welcoming back home to the Macmillan Center, Odeluwa Aba, Chief Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie.
Thank you. Hello. Hello, everyone. Are you happy? I am. I'm very happy to be here. And that was such a lovely introduction, really. And there's a part of the speech where I quarrel with the academic study of African literature. But having listened to that introduction, I think I'm not going to read that part of the speech because because what Kajatan has done is that he's really just made me realize how wrong and outdated I am in my perception of how African literature is studied. And so I thank you so much for that focus on dignity and beauty. I thank you. And I think it's such an important way to think about African literature, and not just my work, but really in general, writing by African writers, because for so long, our literatures have not been thought of in those ways. And so when I get to that part of the lecture, I'll let you know, and I'll decide how much of it to still say. But it's nice to be back. I was a graduate student here years ago. I hadn't realized how long until I did the math. And then I thought, my God, I'm old. And also things have changed. But I did want to, before I start, just say that I had a wonderful professor and advisor, Anne Bierstika, when I was here. And I did not know that Anne had passed away, and only learned about it yesterday. And so I felt deeply sad. And I just want to acknowledge what a wonderful teacher and a lovely human being Anne was, and may her soul rest in peace. I knew very early on in life that I did not want the things I was supposed to want. I also knew that I wanted to write. Both, I think, are connected. The urge to create and the unconscious rejection of the status quo. I want to speak today about writing stories, about writing and about stories, and about being an African writer in the world. So fiction writers, here we go. So fiction writers are often asked about their fiction, about the process, the characters, as I have many times, and I invent my answers. I use the word invent to suggest a welcoming of doubt. And in inventing those answers, sometimes I believe myself and sometimes I do not. Because the truth is that I do not always know the why behind my creative choices. Nor do I trust the process of reducing to intellectually digestible bits the potent mix of magic and intuition and reason that is my creative process. My views about my fiction are fluid, dependent on my mood, whether I slept well, whether I had a glass of wine. But the novels themselves remain in the glorious stillness. And whatever truth there is about the novel lies not in the answers I give, but in that stillness. I have always believed that a novel is sublime, while the novelist is, well, merely the novelist. And I cannot help but think often of Goethe's rule: the artist's task is to create, not to talk. But a novel is, of course, also created in a social and political world and bears the sensibility of the writer, a sensibility which I believe is formed in childhood. I am the daughter of parents who were remarkable, not for their professional achievements, though those were significant, but for the steadfastness and joyousness of their parental love. My father was a professor of statistics, and my mother was a university administrator, and they raised my siblings and me on the campus of the University of Nigeria in Nsukka. Nsukka was a slow and small and utterly lovely place in the early 1980s, the last gasp of the university's sparkling age. The campus had entrance gates with security guards in uniform, many of them elderly men with gentle demeanors. Before each car drove through, the driver would stop, get out of the car, and open the boot, or the trunk, as I am now compelled to say in America. Checking cars as they left the campus was really a ritual and a symbol of apartness and specialness, a reminder that the campus was not part of the larger town. It was a world of its own, safe and gently superior, with its own churches, one Catholic, one Protestant, a children's library, a medical center, a staff primary school, a swimming pool, a tennis court. And when the general electricity was cut off, the campus generators came on. It was the kingdom of my childhood. It was a happy childhood. But I'm not sure I knew at the time that it was a happy childhood. It seems to me that we often recognize happiness only in retrospect. Or maybe a happy child just goes through life too busy being happy to think of being happy. Childhood creates our worldview. My father died in June of 2020, and my mother, shockingly, painfully, only months later on my father's birthday, March 1st. Nothing has left me as shaken and as broken. It has brought to me a new definition of childhood, a time when I thought my loving parents would always be there. The writer Isabel Allende, who writes very wise and deeply felt fiction, once said, "I was such a sullen, angry, sad kid." I'm sure there are writers who have had happy childhoods, but what are they going to write about? No ghosts, no fear? What are we going to write about indeed, those writers with happy childhoods? It is not so much that we would have nothing to write about, I think, as it is that we might approach our writing differently. It is not the absence of ghosts or fear, but that the preeminent impression of childhood is not ghosts and fear. That someone was there to hush you through the fear and clip the wings of the ghosts. And because the ghosts were conquerable, you hold your pen differently. When I was 5, my father was appointed Deputy Vice Chancellor of the university and was assigned a new house on campus. And so we moved from number 13 in Banefu Street to number 305 Margaret Cartwright Avenue. I remember the house as it was then, a light blue 2-story house in an expansive compound, the green hedge of whistling pine, the row of purple bougainvillea, the white lilies that shrank and died each harmattan and then magically flowered again when the rains came. The yellow roses by my mother's garage, the trees in the back, avocado, cashew, mango, and the tall, lonely oil palm. I remember playing badminton with my brothers on the lawn. We used a rope as our net and then argued interminably about whether the shuttle had gone over or under. I remember the frangipani tree that we climbed and from which I once fell, a fall that left a mark on my arm. And because I am spatially challenged, it is the mark that I now use to tell my left from my right. I remember that the guava tree had a kind of elegant slouch to its branches, and it was on its thickened stem that the fluffy white chickens bought in the market were tied before our house help killed them for Sunday lunch. I remember riding my bicycle up and down the slope of Margaret Cartwright Avenue, all the other children going downhill, but I hated the loss of control, and so I went, not fast and thrilled as they did, but slowly, carefully cradling the bicycle's brakes. I remember the disgustingly flat, oversized cockroaches that crawled in with the rainy season and smelled utterly horrible. We called them American cockroaches. They were not the usual smaller Nigerian cockroaches, and I'm not sure why they were called American cockroaches, but perhaps it is not unreasonable to label as American anything that is larger than normal. I remember our gardener, whose name was Jomo, watering the plants with a metal watering can, and my brother, Oke, following him around, listening to Jomo's stories. One day, Jomo told Oke a story different from his usual animal tales. He said his eyes had once been red, bright red, because he had fought in the Nigeria-Biafra War and had killed people, and the blood of those he killed had stained his eyes. But after the war, he did a cleansing ritual where he swore that he had not killed any innocent people, and right afterwards, his eyes lost the redness. My brother must have been about 10 and I about 7, but the story stayed with me, strange and dark, and also somehow redeeming. Many years later, I wrote my novel about the Nigeria-Biafra War, Half of a Yellow Sun. There is a character in the novel called Jomo, who is Jomo and also not Jomo. Just as when I am writing fiction, I am me and also not. Proust has famously written about the novelist's different selves, how the self that writes fiction is different from the everyday self who goes shopping and eats and goes for a walk. I am different when I write fiction, not entirely unhinged from my other self, of course, but different still. A kind of heightened, liquid, suspended state of being, cerebral, but also deeply intuitive, spiritual even. An ancestral bequest, an ancient condition. With a writing process like mine, it is difficult not to believe in, or at least engage with, faith. For to write as I do is to be acquainted with the possibility of mystery, of the unknown and the unknowable. In writing fiction, I surprise myself just as characters surprise me. The writer Elizabeth Bowen said that writers do not create characters, but have to find them because they pre-exist, an idea that appeals to me. Sometimes when I talk about a character surprising me in the course of my writing, I am met with suspicion, understandable suspicion. What do you mean the character surprised you? I mean, you wrote the bloody book. But in this case, I do truly believe myself. I believe myself too when I say this. I did not choose writing. Writing chose me. Nobody has expressed my relationship to my writing as perfectly as Zadie Smith did in a lecture while speaking of her own relationship with her writing, and so I will quote her. I experienced writing as a permanent emergency state, believing if I devoted time to anything else, I would run out of time and then not have the time to write what I felt I had to write. But why this urgency exactly? Nobody asked me to write. I have to resort to a medieval and unfashionable word, vocation. I felt writing was my vocation. That's where the quote ends. Vocation, an old-fashioned word indeed, but no less accurate for being old-fashioned. I do not know a time when I was not drawn to story, to human emotion, to human motivation, to dreaming and thinking, to watching and to seeing. This is all I have ever known, this longing, this sense of being always one step removed, one step apart and watching the world. Writing's grip on the emotional boundaries of my life is inflexible. Without it, my sense of who I am would shrink almost to nothing. If I did not have the good fortune I have today to be published and to be read, for which I'm very grateful, I would be somewhere unknown, but writing. I have this memory from childhood. I'm sitting in the backseat of my mother's car as we drove to the market, and I'm looking out of the window, and suddenly I feel an intense pang of melancholy, because what I saw through the window as we drove were stories, so many stories, and I knew that I would not be able to tell them all.